rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop. And it's day 39, which means, well, it means a couple of things. Day 39 of our 50-day cycle. Firstly, for me, means there's 11 days to go, which I am counting the moments, right? I am hoping for some ridiculous reward for this in the next world, because, oh man, has this been a pulling teeth, right? I've said this many times. I thought it'd be about 5 minutes a day, ending up being close to an hour a day. It really went with the comments and it's taken a lot more time on that. But you know what? I benefited from it greatly. What is the it in this? This is a 50-day cycle of spiritual growth, which goes from the Jewish holiday of Passover to the Jewish holiday of Shavuot, which is when the Jews left Egypt in Passover, and we arrived at Mount Sinai, actually 4 days before Shavuot. The good Lord appeared at Mount Sinai on Shavuot. But each day is a day where God pulls back another curtain separating us between different levels of holiness, right? Kedusha, of holiness. So I'm trying to make use of this time and do a work program that takes us through the entire 50 days. The work program is, where'd it go? The 6 constant mitzvahs. This book over here, 6 constant mitzvahs, is a mitzvah is a commandment from the Old Testament. Most of them have to do with like tithing your crop and idolatry and a lot of strange stuff. There's a lot of strange stuff going on there. Actually, you know what a really cool one is, which I really like. Basically, when Israel is when Israel is what it was meant to be biblically, which is when there's a temple standing here. It's basically a world power, right? That's the idea. But there's all these like laws about making like a masterpiece society, and it's a really lovely blend of capitalism and communism, socialism, not communism. Like it's you have that the capitalist, the free market economy, in that you can make money, you can buy, you can sell, you can trade, and you the good thing about capitalism is you generally speaking get rewarded for the work you put in. Like the more effort you put in, the better you do, which is why I think it's been very, very successful. But the big failing of capitalism has been generational wealth. That you got the third, fourth generation of like loathful children who haven't earned a thing and don't know how to do anything, which is not the best thing if the point of life is growing and becoming better. So what happens is every 50 years we have the thing called a jubilee. We call it Yovel, where all wealth is reset and everybody goes back to their initial portion. But there's also like a lot of like social. Like there's a social welfare net built into the system. Like you're not allowed. This was back assuming that Israel was an agricultural country, which it was. That you weren't allowed to. You had to leave one corner of every field for the poor. And also, when you do your harvest, the things that fall down, the gleanings, a little like bit, that's also for the poor to go and be able to pick stuff up for free. So there's like, I like that balance up. But these commandments are all about having a relationship with God. So we're in number 5 of the 6. The first one was belief in God, a faith, belief in God. Second one was not having any other gods. Don't assign power to anything other than God. God's the only thing with power. I know that the IRS seem like they're powerful. The only power they get is they come from God. We had knowing God is one. There is only God, right? The unity of God. There's nothing disparate from God, which includes you and me. We've had loving God. We focus on loving God, and now we're on fearing God, which is basically the different side of the same coin as loving God. It's basically all from an understanding of who God is and what you are. Anyway, we're at day 39. 39 is an interesting number. 39 is the maximum. I think it's the only. When one gets lashes biblically, 39 is the number, because 40 will probably kill you, right? Interestingly enough, Babylon 5, when they had Jakar was lashed. Who was it? Played by the guy who played the one-armed man, Andreas Kress. He's dead now. Fantastic, right? But when they lashed him, they only gave him 39 lashes as a reference to that. So I like a bit of that. So today we're on to The second part of the commandment of fearing God. And the headline is "Living with a Cheshbon." So I've got to explain what a Cheshbon is. Cheshbon is a spiritual accounting, right? It's it's basically a way of keeping track where you are and what you're doing in terms of spirituality. Because if you actually keep a written record of it, it's much harder for the Satan to fudge that, right? Which is basically what it does. One second, let's see where we're going to. Fine. So fine. Living with a spiritual counting. That a spiritual counting diary. That's what a cheshbon is. The theoretical definition of fear of God is to take God, the Bible, and the consequences of action seriously. You must focus on new ways of implementing fear of heaven on a practical level. It's clear that many sources, most of all the Ramchal, a big rabbi back from a few hundred years ago, which basically is all the rabbis are going to be mentioning. It is great work, Mesilas Yesharim, the path of the just. In order to build up fear of heaven, one must begin with to work on a cheshbon hanefesh, a spiritual calculation of your soul. Let's look at the steps outlined by the Ramchal and see how it will help us attain fear of heaven. And again, I really like that I have a mostly Christian audience for this because it's so universal, right? And also, I do feel it's a bit of a what's the word? It's a culmination. It's a fulfillment of the prophecy that at the end of days that the children of Jacob and the children of Esau, which is where Rome came from and Christianity, will walk together. So yeah, hopefully we are. Hopefully we are. Where are you headed? When a person sets out on a journey, the first thing they must do is choose a destination. Let's see what's out there. First starter left and straight on to morning. Similarly, in planning our spiritual sojourn through life, we must have a clear definition of what our life goals are. The six constant mitzvahs, the six constant commandments, define them for us. In emunah, in faith, we learn that we're here for a purpose to perfect ourselves and the world around us, so we can enjoy the ultimate pleasure of basking in God's presence in the world to come. In idolatry, not having any other gods, we learn there are no other methods to succeed in this world. In the oneness of God, we learn that every aspect of creation and every aspect of our life was placed there by God to help us succeed in our mission. In love of God, we required us to be excited and take pleasure and share in the purpose of creation. And now we're in fear of God requires us to realize that the Bible is real, like God is real, and that every one of our actions will draw consequences. It is extremely important to crystallize those ideals before moving on to their practical application. There are people for whom religious worship means avoiding prohibition. They spend their lives trying to not transgress in any way. Their approach calls for much self-sacrifice. Right? They avoid this prohibition and that one and the other one, and eventually it all starts to get burdensome. Yeah, okay, I'm at that point now. Yeah. They want to make money, for instance, but religion keeps getting away. They must close their business on Sabbath. There are investments that are unacceptable. I'm sure. If one was an investor in whatever any of the porn sites online, PornTube, whatever, I'm sure that's a safe investment, right? I mean, really, I don't see that going down anytime soon. Even though a lot of people do go down quite often, from what I understand. So eventually they must resent the constant burden that religious observers and start looking for loopholes. And if there are no loopholes, they create them. I'm quite good at that myself. Thus, we find people shopping for lenient opinions. Oh, we do that in Judaism. Like, if we want, if we want to do something, and we go and ask a rabbi about the Jewish law, and we look for a lenient opinion within the Jewish law to let us be able to do it. You will say that there are some rabbis that halakhic, that religious authorities that will allow it. But something that's really annoying me right now is what was it? Whoopi Goldberg, who's generally quite annoying nowadays. She was talking about abortion, which is also generally quite annoying, and she was saying, I don't understand, honey child, I understand. Judaism lets you have abortions, but why not Christianity? I don't think we do. I mean, I think we do, but in the right circle. It's not like, I'm bored. We don't have abortion as a type of contraception, right? In fact, having contraception is also a bit iffy. We're not allowed to use condoms, for example. But the pill is okay, apparently. There you go. So I'm not going to argue with that. Where are we? So yeah, they look for loopholes, and they can't find. And they will look for authorities that allow it, and they'll say, "Oh, I heard somebody said it was permissible to claim this sort of deduction on your taxes." If all else fails, the greatest comeback of all is, "I'm not so religious. Yeah, I'm not so religious. I don't need to be crazy about this stuff." When people set personal goals and try to make the Jewish law or the religious law conform to those goals, life becomes one long constant effort to survive the this nuance and that nuance. I mean, this like this, I think, will be different in Judaism and Christianity, because Judaism is very much based on a legal system of right and wrong, right? Which again, people will just ignore when they don't like it, right? It's so weird. People ignore that legal system even when they think they are enacting that legal system, right? They'll ignore the legal system to enact, and they'll ignore one part of the legal system to enact another part of the legal system because they're personally invested in it and they're getting off on it essentially. Even those who do not crack and manage to live a life of sacrifice are missing the point. God is not God and religion is not something you learn to live with. It's something you learn to live for, right? You shouldn't be looking at it as a series of constrictions. Another group of people focuses only on the positive commandments in the Bible, right? Some people are constantly talking about the need for loving one another, loving kindness. For instance, even if they violate negative commandments such as slandering those who do not feel love each other, yeah, to achieve their goals. Right? Yeah, they will talk badly about other people who because they talk badly about people. Right? Well, again, doesn't really make that much sense. Yet another group of people, I know the group pursue chumras. Chumrah is a stringency, right? And so often stringencies become the norm. For example, there's a thing called chalav stam and chalav Yisrael, right? Chalav is milk, right? So if you have a chalav Yisrael, it means you're only allowed to have milk that was milked by Jews, right? Supervised and milked by Jews from the beginning of the process to the end of the process. Chalav stam is just regular milk, and the reason for people only having milk that was observed by Jews, because it was a relatively common practice at one time to mix pig milk in with cow milk, right? And so you wouldn't know if they're mixed together. But yeah, that's where it comes from. However, today the new legal dietary laws of health and safety make it that everything's kosher. Like the milk is 100% always kosher. It's only moo cow milk. However, some people will still only, and I think it's a meritorious thing, only have milk that's been watched by Jews, because it's a stringency they've taken upon themselves because they want to be more stringent, right? So stringencies that may not be necessary as a means of feeling as if they are sacrificing for God's sake. While the quest for holiness is commendable, it can often come at a cost to others. It can also be a diversionary tactic placed in the way by the Satan, which this happens, right, to cause a person to focus on technicalities rather than true spiritual achievement. Very, very common. Because Judaism is so filled with Jewish law, and the observance of Judaism is so filled with Jewish law that you often lose the wood for the trees. We had a local official, right, who a rabbinical authority who kept breaking Jewish law, but he did it because he did when he was upset. He very, very clearly talked badly about people publicly. It's like he broke Jewish law over and over again. However, the people who were most into Jewish law, most into studying Jewish law, wouldn't hear of it because they wouldn't conceive of it because he's the rabbinic authority, right? And they couldn't put the two things together, right? Because they were too busy losing the wood for the trees. So fine. So the first aspect of cheshbon and nefesh, the idea of like a daily spiritual counting or a regular spiritual counting, and then is to ask yourself, what do I live for? This is great advice. What do I live for? What do I want? Do I turn to God for direction, or do I set my goals and make sure that God doesn't interfere? Right? Like what's my focus? Right? Which way am I going? Pages stuck together. I pursue some commandments over others. Why do I choose to adopt this stringency or that stringency? If somebody has a fear of God, right, a genuine fear of God, it means taking all aspects of the Bible seriously and realizing that in reality, realizing it's a reality, then developing fear of heaven requires us to take an honest look at ourselves and make sure that that God is our goal in life, not something that we must not something we're trying to make conform to our goals. So how will you get there is the next heading. Taking the analogy one step further, when a traveler has decided on a destination, he must figure out how to reach that destination. In our spiritual sojourn, wandering, I guess, in a spiritual sojourn, too, we must develop a plan of how to carry out our goals. This step is defined by defined in the Torah as fear of heaven. It's defined in the Bible as fear of heaven. The Bible, the biblical nation of Amalek is referred to as a nation that did not fear God. So Amalek, well, they're essentially the naughty National Socialists from Germany in the 1930s. They pop up every time Jews return to Israel, right? Turn to Israel mass. So the first time they came up was, I think, when Jacob was coming back. Esau, who was the father of Christianity, the nation from him broke into two. One was the good of Esau, and one was the bad of Esau. The bad of Esau is Amalek, and they are the naughty National Socialists, right? That's why I think it was very prophetic, which it was essentially World War II. England was there; it was a very important part of World War II, and they wouldn't have won without England. But it was the world powers at the time were essentially America. America was burgeoning at the time, I think, actually more than that. America and England, let's say, the Western world, which is, I would say, the good of Esau, versus the bad of Esau, which is again those naughty National Socialists from the 1930s. I can't remember how I got there. Oh yeah, Amalek. So we're talking about what was it, Amalek? After the Jews left Egypt, no nation was willing to challenge them. The entire world had heard about the terrible plagues that struck Egypt and the splitting of the Red Sea, and everyone was terrified, right? So we go in Exodus chapter 15, verse 14. People heard, and they agitated. Terror gripped the dwellers of Philistia. The nation knew that the Jews were traveling to the land of Israel, and they were certain that no one could stand in the way. One nation was unimpressed, however, Amalek, right? Amalek. Everyone was afraid of God's mighty hand. Whenever I read the word mighty, I always think of Captain America when Captain America throws his mighty shield, God's mighty hand, right? Except for Amalek, they were the only people that, yeah. And you want to tell me that Amalek doesn't have a good root hold in the Western world right now? Looks like they do to me. So they attacked the Jews and they lost the battle, right? They attacked the Israelites, lost the battle, but they had dared to fight, right? They didn't take God seriously, and because of that, the Jews were considered like invulnerable at the time. Nobody would go against them. They broke that, right? They broke that. Amalek were descendants of Esau, as I said before. So in the Talmud, it teaches us that when the tribes brought Jacob's coffin to the cave of Machpelah, which is where Abraham and Isaac and Adam and Eve are buried. It was Esau's family. Again, they had the good and the bad of Esau, right? The protested, saying that the plot there belonged to him. So they argued that the cave had been purchased by Abraham and the family burial spot, since Jacob had already used two remaining spots for his wives. Two remaining spots to bury Leah, Leah and himself. The other one belonged to Esau. One of Jacob's grandson, who was a deaf mute, what's the name again? Can't remember his name. Couldn't understand why the burial's delayed. When the others indicate that Esau was a culprit, he took a shovel and chopped the head off of Esau, and his head went boom boom boom, rolling into the cave, which is where it got its burial. Which is an interesting thing for Esau, because he was a very ambiguous character. He was very very high spiritually in some ways, and very very low spiritually in some ways, and that kind of indicated that the good of Esau, like the good part of him, was holy, and the rest of him wasn't. Right, the body dragged him down. The commentators explain that this event is not coincidental. Esau had belonged in the cave. Oh, good. We're talking about what you said. Because as far as his intellect was concerned, Esau was on the level of one of the patriarchs. His understanding, even his even his clarity, was on an extremely high level. But Esau suffered from transmission failure. Okay, well, did the car break down? There was no connection between his mind and the rest of his body. He knew what was right, and still he indulged in sin. Right? He was a philanderer, a thief, a murderer. That trait was passed. That trait went into the evil of Esau to Amalek. Right? That's where the nation of Amalek came from. If you know Doctor Who, it's essentially the Valiard. Right? All the bad bits of the Doctor went in and made the Valiard. So all the bad bits of Esau went to make Amalek. Right? And then when that was separated out, that's when the descendants of Esau became Rome. Who weren't really that great at the time either. It's been a long ride. I mean, like the bit when they were feeding the Christians to the lions. Probably they hadn't reached spiritual fulfillment quite as yet. Then. So fine. That trait passed on to Amalek, who knew that they would lose the war with the Jews, but they fought anyway. Right? They attacked them anyway, and described in the Bible as having no fear of God. A person who knows the truth but does not implement it does not fear God. I mean, people are human. People make mistakes, right? But on a basic level, if you are speaking badly about somebody who's speaking badly, right? If you are breaking the Jewish law to break the because somebody's breaking Jewish law, it's kind of that thing, right? It's because you lack a fear of God that you're breaking every intentional breaking of God's will happens because we are. We don't believe God's real, right? I think that's the basic idea. So the second step that we is to make your goals be defined for yourself. in one step and then implement them. Make sure that your mind and your body are connected and that your behavior mimics your perception of truth. Each time you act, make sure that the action you want to make, the action you want to take fits your goal in your life goals and brings you closer to the purpose for what you created. And again, this is something that takes habit rather than doing it over and over again to be able to master. The second step, to make sure I just said that. Yes. Make sure you are connected and your behavior mimics your perception of truth. Each time you act, make sure your act fits into your life goals that bring you closer to the purpose that you were created. This step of spiritual counting is the most difficult one because in the heat of the moment we are influenced by so many stimuli. It is almost impossible to think objectively. Very true, very true. I often think back at how I could have done things better. We are torn between two or more options that pull us in opposite directions. We have desires that make us feel as though we absolutely must act, and we also have the propensity towards justifying our actions and making ourselves feel as if acting on our desires is best for us. Like, it will feel very good. That will probably be best for me. Such human fragility can easily be overpowered with our knowledge of right and wrong. We try our best to weigh out our options objectively, but how do we know whether or not we're choosing correctly? Right in the moment, how do we? How can we train ourselves to do this? So we do this thing called the spiritual counting in the aftermath. Hindsight, they say, is 20/20. We are biased when we make our decisions, but in the aftermath, less so. Yeah, right. We can consider things more so. More, you have the emotion taken out of it, right? Once we have acted upon our desires, there is a good chance that we will know whether we were right or wrong. Not for me. Okay. Well, working on desires, I guess. Yeah. Each one of us has experiences. We have situations when we thought we were doing something that was great and realized afterwards we're doing something that's terrible. The bias often disappears in the aftermath. Honestly, that I don't really haven't really experienced that so much. Quite frankly, I mean, really, I suppose it's because I try and consider what I'm doing. But yeah, I'm normally I've seen other people do it, but I mean, I guess I might just being very very arrogant and not seeing it myself. Right. On one level, this will allow us to repent and repair the damage we have done. On a much deeper level, it will cause us to examine not only the erroneous action, but also what led us to make a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes, but if the process of a decision is faulty, we must then we will continue to indefinitely. Yeah, and people do certainly get trapped in that same kind of self-defeating behavior. Look at this. I'm coming to half an hour already. Bloody hell. This part of the spiritual counting, the HaGeffen HaNefesh, is unique in that we calculate on a scheduled basis. The other portions of the spiritual counting should be performed on a schedule. Each person must choose a schedule that will work for them. Once a day, once a week, at least once a month. I will say once a fortnight is, otherwise you're not really doing anything. Once a week, really, unless you're not really doing it. Stick to it faithfully. Yes, you can't let it slip. The decision-making process, however, need not be examined regularly. When we find ourselves regretting an action we initially considered to be proper, we must examine the thought process that caused us to err. We must ask ourselves whether the mistaken decision was an anomaly or representative example of our decision-making process. If it was the latter, we must redefine our goals and strengthen our commitment to know what is true. I mean, essentially what it is, though, I'm doing a HaGeffen HaNefesh, a spiritual category. It shines a light on you, right? The Satan just hides and hides and hides. But when you shine a light on your actions, you say, "Oh, I did this there, did this there, did this there," and you got. Everyone's got turnkey issues, that they monitor. Like, again, maybe it's speaking badly about other people, right? Everyone has these turnkey issues that they need to monitor. And if you do like this, just get a little notebook and write it down every day. You can even give yourself a score. Let's say you're working on not speaking bad about people. Then each day, give yourself a score on how you did. Today was a great day. I got a 10. Today was a terrible day. I got a 2. Right? And you see it, and you make a little graph, and you see, and you understand what triggers you, what moves you in in that direction. So there you go. HaGeffen and Nefesh, spiritual counting. This is a good way of actualizing one's fear of God, fear of heaven, and making it real. How do you make it real? Because it's freaking real when you treat it as being real. My name is Tzvi Lebetkin, the rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring that little bell. Ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop.